The capital ship hung in orbit above the forested world, its silver hull gleaming under the pale light of a distant sun. Inside, the corridors hummed with quiet activity. Alien soldiers moved with precision, their sharp eyes scanning every corner, every prisoner, every detail. At the heart of the ship, in the throne chamber, the alien queen sat on her elevated platform, her tall figure wrapped in elegant robes that shimmered like starlight. Her gaze swept the chamber as she listened to the latest reports from her captains. "Another human has been captured," one of the officers announced. His voice was steady, but there was a hint of excitement. "He was found on the outer colony of Xylar Prime. The locals say he was evading capture for years. He is a rogue, dangerous, cunning, and stubborn." The queen tilted her head, considering the news. Humans were unpredictable creatures. They were small, fragile, and yet somehow endlessly surprising. She had encountered humans before, but this one, this nameless prisoner, stirred something inside her that she could not yet identify. "Bring him before me," she commanded. Her voice was calm, regal, and final. The guards moved swiftly, disappearing into the corridors and returning a few minutes later with the prisoner. The human was unlike any other she had seen. His shoulders were broad, his body lean but strong. His hair was dark and tousled, falling slightly into his eyes, which glimmered with a sharp intelligence. Despite the shackles around his wrists and ankles, he stood tall, his posture defiant. There was no fear in his gaze. When the queen looked at him, she froze. Something inside her shifted. She had seen those eyes before. The memory hit her like a sudden storm. Years ago, on a distant, war-torn planet, a human had saved her life. During an ambush by rogue mercenaries, she had been surrounded, her guards falling one by one. And then, out of nowhere, a human had appeared, moving with precision and courage that defied belief. He had fought his way through impossible odds, protected her, and ensured her escape. She had never forgotten him, and now here he was, shackled on her ship, a prisoner of her empire. The guards led him closer, and the human's eyes met hers. For a long moment, neither spoke. The chamber seemed to shrink around them. The queen could see the faint scar along his jawline, the same one she had noticed years ago during that battle. His hair was longer, his body stronger, but the same calm confidence radiated from him. "You," the queen said, her voice barely above a whisper. The human raised an eyebrow but said nothing. He studied her carefully, as if measuring her reaction. He did not bow, did not kneel. Humans rarely showed submission, and this one, she realized, was no ordinary man. "You remember me," he said finally, his voice quiet but steady. "From Korath Prime." The queen's eyes widened. His memory was accurate. Only someone who had been there, who had survived, could know that. She nodded, almost imperceptibly. "Yes," she said, "I remember you." There was a flicker of surprise on the human's face. He had not expected acknowledgement, let alone recognition. "Then you know I am not a man who can be easily controlled." "I am aware," the queen replied, her voice steady now. She leaned back slightly on her throne, studying him. "And yet here you are, shackled. My empire has captured you. I must treat you as any other prisoner." The human's lips curved into a small, almost amused smile. "And yet you hesitate. I can see it in your eyes." Her advisors tensed, sensing the dangerous tension. The queen's hesitation was uncharacteristic. She was known for her decisiveness, her ability to rule without letting emotions interfere. Yet as she gazed at this human, memories of past battles, of gratitude and awe surfaced. She had never forgotten his courage, his ingenuity, the way he had risked everything to save her life. And now in this moment she realized that he still carried that same spark. "Enough," one of the officers said sharply, breaking the silence. "He is a prisoner. Treat him as such, Your Majesty. We cannot afford hesitation." "He is a human." "Unpredictable, yes, but dangerous. The law is clear." The queen raised a hand, silencing him. "I am aware of the law," she said, her tone firm. "But I will decide how to handle this situation." The human's gaze did not waver. There was no fear, no panic, only calm assessment. He had always been like this. In the chaos of battle, he had not panicked. Now in the calm of the throne chamber, he remained the same. "Tell me," the queen said finally, her voice softer now, almost curious. "How did you survive all these years hiding from my forces?" The human shrugged slightly. "I adapt. I watch, I learn. Humans survive when others give up." His eyes sparkled with a quiet pride. "And I am not one to give up." Her advisors muttered among themselves, uneasy. The queen noticed but ignored them. This human was exceptional, and she would not deny the truth of her memories. "Do you regret saving me that day?" she asked, her voice almost a whisper. He shook his head slowly. "No, you were not the enemy. And besides, someone had to act. I could not let you die." The queen's eyes softened, a rare display of emotion for someone who ruled with absolute authority. She could see now why he had survived. Not because he was lucky, not because he was reckless, but because he possessed a combination of courage, intelligence, and quick thinking that few could match. "You have changed," she said, studying his face closely. "You are stronger now, more confident." "I had to be," he replied simply. "The galaxy does not give second chances to those who hesitate." For a moment, the chamber was silent. The human stood in the center, shackled but unbowed, radiating a quiet strength that made even her advisors uneasy. She realized that keeping him imprisoned would not be easy. This man was not ordinary. "Very well," she said at last, straightening in her throne. "You will be treated as a prisoner for now. But know this, I will watch you closely. Any attempt to escape or disrupt my rule will be met with force." The human inclined his head slightly. "Understood. But I do not intend to disappoint." Her eyes narrowed. There was something in his tone, a quiet challenge that stirred a mix of curiosity and caution in her. She had met many humans before, but none like him. This one had not only survived but thrived in circumstances that would have broken most. The queen stood, her tall form casting a shadow over the chamber. "Guards, take him to the holding cells. Ensure he is secure, but do not harm him unnecessarily." The officers exchanged puzzled glances. "Your Majesty?" one of them asked. "I said do not harm him unnecessarily," she repeated firmly. "I will handle the rest." As the guards led the human away, he looked back over his shoulder. Their eyes met, and for a fleeting moment there was understanding between them. He had saved her life once. Now fate had brought them together again, under very different circumstances. In the quiet of the throne chamber, the queen allowed herself a single thought, one she had not entertained for years. He is more than a human, he is extraordinary. Meanwhile, in the holding cells, the human settled on the cold metal floor, thinking carefully. He had survived wars, ambushes, and countless attempts to capture him, but now he faced a challenge unlike any other: the alien queen herself. He remembered her strength, her intelligence, and her unpredictability. If he could navigate this situation, he might not only survive but turn it to his advantage. As night fell over the forested planet below, the capital ship glowed softly against the stars. The human prisoner lay quietly in his cell, thinking of strategies, plans, and possibilities. Outside, the alien queen gazed toward the distant stars, her mind a mixture of duty and memories, of loyalty and hesitation. The galaxy was changing, and neither the queen nor the human fully understood the role they would play in the events to come. But one thing was certain: their fates were now entwined, and the universe would never see humans the same way again. The human prisoner sat quietly on the cold floor of the holding cell, his back against the smooth metal wall. The dim lights above flickered, casting long shadows that danced across the room. He was no stranger to confinement. He had faced cages, traps, and ambushes before. But this felt different. This was the alien queen's ship. This was a place where even the smallest mistake could mean the end of everything. He could hear footsteps echoing down the corridor. Guards moved with the precision of trained soldiers, their weapons at the ready. Yet he remained calm, his mind already analyzing his surroundings. Every corridor, every camera, every patrol pattern was a potential weakness, a possible opportunity. Humans were adaptable, and he had survived by observing, learning, and striking at the perfect moment. Above him, in the throne chamber, the queen could not stop thinking about the human she had just seen. She sat silently, her mind replaying memories from years ago. The ambush on Korath Prime, the chaos of battle, and the human who had appeared out of nowhere, saving her life at great personal risk. She remembered the way he had moved, fast and precise, taking down enemies while shielding her from danger. She remembered the calm in his eyes, the way he had assessed the situation and made impossible choices. She had never met another human like him before or since. Most were clever, yes, but none had the combination of bravery, intelligence, and instinct that he had possessed. That human had been remarkable then, and now, years later, he stood before her again, a prisoner, yet still radiating that same calm strength. Her advisors were uneasy. They could not understand why she hesitated, why she allowed a human prison be brought before her, and the capital ship drifted silently above the green planet, its massive hull reflecting the pale light of distant stars. Inside, the air hummed with the quiet energy of a vessel always ready for battle. For the alien queen, the last few days had been unsettling. The human prisoner occupied her thoughts more than she cared to admit. Every decision she made seemed shadowed by the memory of his calm, unshakable eyes and the courage she had once witnessed firsthand. In the holding cells, the human studied the ship with careful attention. He had memorized guard rotations, security panel sequences, and the positioning of energy shields, but more importantly, he observed the crew, learning their habits and reactions. Humans survived by understanding both their environment and those around them. The peace, however, was about to shatter. Alarms blared across the ship, red lights flashing violently along the corridors. The crew rushed to their stations, their claws and limbs moving with practiced speed. Outside, enemy warships had appeared suddenly, slipping past long-range sensors. The attackers were well-equipped and coordinated, exploiting the ship's routine and the predictable positions of its defenses. The queen rose from her throne, her tall figure commanding attention. "Status report," she demanded, her voice cutting through the alarm. "The outer shield has been breached," one officer shouted. "Multiple boarding parties are approaching. Our defenses are insufficient to repel them alone." The queen's mind raced. She had anticipated threats, yes, but this attack was precise. Almost as if the enemy knew the ship's every weakness, the human prisoner's presence suddenly came to mind. Perhaps she could use his intelligence. But could she trust him? Before she could decide, another officer spoke. "Your Majesty, we can attempt a counterattack, but it will cost thousands of lives. The enemy is fast and unpredictable." The queen paused. She could see the fear in their faces, but she knew that hesitation now would be catastrophic. And then she remembered the human, the man who had saved her once. She had glimpsed the depth of his ingenuity during that distant battle. Perhaps, just perhaps, he could help. "Bring him to the command deck," she ordered. The advisors froze. "What?" one of them exclaimed. "The prisoner, now?" "Yes," she said firmly. "We do not have time for hesitation. The human has survived situations far worse than this. His mind may be the key to saving this ship." Reluctantly, the guards obeyed. The human was escorted through the corridors, still shackled, his expression calm. He glanced around, noting every detail, the chaos, the tension, and the energy surging through the ship as it prepared for battle. When he arrived on the command deck, the queen met his eyes. "You will assist us," she said, her tone commanding yet restrained. "Your life depends on your usefulness. Fail, and the consequences will be severe." The human nodded. "I understand," he said calmly. "But I do not intend to fail." The queen gestured to the tactical display hovering above the deck. Enemy ships streaked through space, their movements precise and threatening. "Analyze the situation," she commanded. The human studied the display, noting the patterns in the enemy's attack. He pointed out weaknesses in their formation, predicting where the boarding parties would strike first. His voice was calm, but each suggestion was precise, each recommendation based on careful observation and logic. "Divert energy to the lateral shields," he instructed. "The enemy will concentrate their fire on the main hull. If we strengthen the sides and adjust our countermeasures, we can buy time." The queen watched closely as he worked. Even shackled, he demonstrated a strategic mind far beyond ordinary humans. She felt a flicker of respect and a hint of something more. This was the same man who had saved her life years ago, and now he was doing it again in a completely different way. Her advisors muttered among themselves, some skeptical, some envious, but the queen silenced them with a single glance. "He is not just a human," she said softly. "He is extraordinary. Watch and learn." Under the human's guidance, the crew shifted power to the lateral shields, rerouted energy flows, and deployed countermeasures against enemy sensors. Every action was precise, every suggestion calculated. Slowly, the tide of the battle began to turn. The queen felt a sense of relief, but also a growing awareness. She could not have managed this alone. The human's observations extended beyond ship defenses. He noticed gaps in the crew's coordination, small mistakes that could prove fatal. He suggested minor adjustments, simple but effective, that improved efficiency and response time. Slowly, the crew began to follow his instructions, impressed by the logic and speed of his decisions. "Prepare boarding defenses," he said next. "They will try to infiltrate the central hub, reinforce corridors 4 through 9, and assign the fastest crew to patrol the access points. If we can contain the intruders in one section, we can eliminate them systematically." The Queen nodded, impressed. "You have improved the efficiency of this crew in minutes," the human smiled faintly. "I have had practice." His gaze met hers for a moment, and she noticed the same calm confidence she had seen all those years ago. He did not seek praise. He only focused on solving problems. As the battle raged outside, small skirmishes broke out on the ship itself. Enemy boarding parties attempted to breach security doors, only to find themselves funneled into controlled corridors where the ship's defenders could contain them. The human had anticipated their moves perfectly. Each countermeasure, each adjustment, turned potential disaster into controlled resistance. The Queen observed silently, a mixture of admiration and cautious awe in her eyes. She had never expected a human to contribute so effectively to her empire's defense, and yet here he was, guiding her crew through a crisis with a calm mind and sharp intellect. Hours passed, and the tide of battle slowly shifted in the Queen's favor. The enemy, frustrated by their inability to infiltrate critical areas, began to withdraw. The ship's hull, though battered, remained intact. Losses were far lower than expected, thanks to the human's guidance. The Queen finally allowed herself to speak. "You have done well," she said, her voice calm but firm. "You may be a prisoner, but your actions today have saved lives, including my own." The human inclined his head. "I only do what must be done," he replied. "Survival, efficiency, and logic guide my actions." "That is all." Her advisors exchanged uneasy glances. None had seen the Queen rely on a human in this way before. It was unprecedented, but she did not care. The human had proven himself, and she recognized the truth. Some humans were not to be underestimated. Later, in the quiet of her private chambers, the Queen reflected on the events of the day. She realized that this human was more than just a prisoner. He was an extraordinary individual, capable of influencing events far beyond what anyone had expected. She remembered the man who had saved her years ago, and understood now that his abilities had only grown. The human, returned to his cell, sat quietly, reviewing every detail of the battle. He noted what had worked, what had failed, and how the crew had adapted. More importantly, he considered his next steps. This ship, though heavily guarded, contained vulnerabilities that only someone familiar with its routines could exploit. He had survived many challenges before, and now he faced a new one, the Queen herself. For the first time in years, he felt a strange sense of connection. The Queen had trusted him in a moment of crisis, acknowledged his abilities, and allowed him to act. That trust was unusual even for humans, who rarely relied on outsiders so quickly. Perhaps this was an opportunity, not just for survival, but for something greater. As the ship drifted quietly through space, the galaxy beyond seemed endless and full of unknown threats. Both the Queen and the human understood that this battle was only the beginning. The universe was vast, unpredictable, and dangerous. But together, unlike anyone could have expected, they had proven that even the smallest, most underestimated individuals could make a profound difference. For the human, it was a reminder of why humans survived. Not because they were the strongest, but because they could think, adapt, and act where others failed. For the Queen, it was a revelation. Even a ruler with immense power could not predict or control every event. Sometimes the unexpected, someone like this human, was the key to victory. And in that moment, a silent understanding passed between them. Though prisoner and queen, captor and captive, past and present were intertwined. Both knew that their paths were connected in ways neither fully understood yet. And both knew that the galaxy was about to witness something extraordinary. A dangerous alliance between an alien queen and a human who refused to be ordinary. The capital ship had regained stability, but the tension aboard remained thick. The human prisoner sat quietly in his cell, thinking. The battle had been won, but victory was temporary. The Queen's empire was vast, and he knew the consequences of remaining a prisoner. Survival required not just patience, but action. He needed a plan, not just for himself, but for the innocent lives trapped in this orbiting fortress. The corridors of the ship were quiet now, except for the soft hum of engines and the occasional echo of patrolling guards. The human observed carefully, memorizing each movement, each routine. He had learned over the years that escape was never about brute force. It was about understanding, timing, and intelligence. Every detail mattered. Meanwhile, the alien queen sat in her private chambers reviewing. The corridors of the capital ship were unusually silent that morning. The recent escape had left a ripple of unease among the crew and advisors alike. Whispers filled the halls, rumors of prisoners moving through hidden paths, of alarms bypassed, and of a human whose actions had shifted the balance aboard the ship. The alien queen moved through the throne chamber with her usual calm authority, but her mind was far from at ease. Her advisors had gathered in the council hall, their expressions a mixture of frustration, suspicion, and outright anger. "Your Majesty," one of the senior officers began, "we cannot ignore what has happened. That human prisoner has escaped and manipulated the systems aboard our ship. If we allow this, others may follow. It is a threat to your rule." The Queen's eyes, sharp and focused, swept over them. "You misunderstand the situation," she said calmly. "This human is not a mere prisoner. He has demonstrated intelligence, courage, and leadership. He has acted in ways that ensured minimal loss of life during the battle. That is not a weakness. It is a quality we must acknowledge." "Qualities?" another advisor snapped. "He is a human. He is unpredictable and dangerous. He has already defied our authority. How can we trust him?" The Queen's gaze hardened. "Trust is not given blindly, but recognition of talent is not betrayal. That is what separates a strong ruler from the weak. I will not punish brilliance because it challenges your narrow view of power." The council murmured in disbelief, some muttering objections, others shocked at her defense. Few had seen her speak with such conviction in favor of a human, yet she remained unwavering. She had witnessed his skill, his courage, and his ability to act decisively under pressure. It was undeniable. Meanwhile, in the outer docks, the human and the freed prisoners regrouped aboard the shuttles. He had ensured that everyone remained calm, organized, and ready for the next step. His plan had worked so far, but the journey was far from over. The galaxy was vast, and threats could emerge at any moment. He glanced at the other humans and beings who had been freed. Their eyes reflected relief, gratitude, and a growing sense of confidence. The human had not only saved them physically, but had given them hope. He understood that leadership was not about power alone. It was about strategy, guidance, and care for those under your influence. Back on the capital ship, the Queen prepared for a more formal confrontation. The council demanded answers and consequences. She knew that exposing the humans' actions fully would shock them even further, and yet she felt it was necessary to demonstrate a fundamental truth. Sometimes true strength came from the most unexpected places. "Bring him to the chamber," she commanded. The advisors exchanged stunned looks. "What, the human?" one of them asked. "Yes," she said firmly. "It is time to face the council and reveal what is truly happening." The human was escorted to the council hall, still calm and composed. He was no longer shackled. The Queen had allowed him freedom within the chamber. His presence alone commanded attention. Every advisor turned to him, a mixture of suspicion and incredulity in their eyes. "Sit," the Queen said, gesturing to a designated position at the front of the hall. "You will speak truthfully and answer all questions." The human nodded. "I will," he said simply. His voice was calm, measured, and confident. "But I must first explain the context of my actions." He recounted the events of the previous days, the battle, the strategy he had suggested, and the escape plan that had freed the innocent prisoners. Every detail was precise, every action justified. He did not boast. He presented facts, facts that could not be ignored. The council listened in stunned silence. Some tried to interrupt, to question, to assert authority, but the Queen raised a hand, silencing them. "Let him speak," she commanded. "His actions have consequences, yes, but they are grounded in intelligence, morality, and effectiveness. That is what leadership requires." The human continued, explaining not only the tactical successes but also the ethical considerations. He had ensured minimal loss of life, prioritized those who were innocent, and acted decisively when hesitation could have led to disaster. His words carried weight, not because of position or threat, but because of clarity and reason. "Humans survive by observing, analyzing, and acting decisively," he concluded. I acted in this way not out of defiance, but because it was necessary. Every life saved, every failure prevented, is evidence of careful planning and action, not rebellion. A hush fell over the council. They were forced to confront a truth they had long denied. This human was extraordinary. He had displayed qualities that few in the Empire possessed. Brilliance, courage, morality, and adaptability, all in one being. The Queen rose, her voice ringing through the hall. You see before you not a mere prisoner, but a mind capable of understanding, strategy, and action beyond what many of you possess. His actions have protected my ship, my people, and the integrity of this mission. That is reason enough to recognize his value. Some advisors still resisted, their pride and fear clashing with undeniable reality. But the Queen did not waver. Her words, combined with the evidence presented, silenced the objections. Even the most stubborn recognized that this human had done what few could. You have proven that even a single human can change outcomes in ways previously unimaginable, she continued. We cannot ignore this. We must acknowledge talent where it exists, regardless of origin. The human bowed slightly, not out of submission, but out of respect. Thank you, Your Majesty, he said quietly. I do not seek reward. I seek only to act correctly and to protect those who cannot protect themselves. The Queen allowed a small smile. There was honor in his words, humility alongside brilliance. She realized that humans, despite their physical limitations, possessed qualities that could rival or even surpass those of more powerful species. Courage, intelligence, strategy, and morality, these were qualities that mattered in the universe. One advisor finally spoke, his voice tinged with reluctant respect. Your actions have forced us to reconsider our assumptions. We see now that humans are not as weak or unpredictable as we believed. The human nodded. Assumptions can be dangerous. Observation, understanding, and action are what ensure survival. The Queen turned her gaze to the council. Let this be a lesson, she said firmly. We must judge not by appearance, species, or position alone, but by capability, intelligence, and action. The galaxy is changing, and so must we. The room was silent, the weight of her words sinking in. The human had not only proven his skill, but had challenged the prejudices and assumptions of an entire council. His actions had forced them to confront a reality they had long ignored. Humans, though underestimated, were extraordinary. Outside, the galaxy continued its endless spin, vast, unpredictable, and full of challenges. But within the walls of the council chamber, a shift had occurred. A human, once a prisoner, had demonstrated that courage, intelligence, and morality could influence even the most rigid systems. The Queen sat back in her throne, her mind at ease for the first time in days. She had trusted this human, allowed him to act, and witnessed the results firsthand. He had proven that even the smallest and most underestimated beings could change the course of events, influence decisions, and reshape the future. For the human, the confrontation was a reminder of what he had always known. Survival required intelligence, courage, and careful planning. Leadership was not about fear or power alone. It was about making the right decisions, even when faced with opposition. He had acted decisively, and the results spoke for themselves. As the council dispersed, the Queen and the human shared a brief glance, a silent acknowledgement of mutual respect. Though prisoner and ruler, human and alien, past and present were intertwined in ways neither fully understood, the events of the day had proven that alliances could be formed not only through duty, but through recognition of talent, courage, and integrity. And as the stars stretched endlessly beyond the ship's hull, both knew that the universe would never underestimate humans again. The galaxy was changing, and extraordinary beings, regardless of species, would shape its future in ways few could imagine. The human had survived. The prisoners were safe, and the Queen had recognized the value of a mind that refused to be ordinary. The confrontation had ended, but the story was far from over. Challenges remained, dangers loomed, and the future awaited. Yet one truth was undeniable. A human's intelligence and courage could rival even the most powerful of empires. The galaxy stretched endlessly beyond the capital ship, stars glimmering like scattered diamonds across the black void. Inside, the atmosphere was tense yet charged with a sense of accomplishment. The human prisoner, now a proven strategist and problem solver, had not only saved countless lives, but had also earned the attention and respect of the alien Queen. His actions had rewritten what many thought they knew about humans. In the Queen's private chambers, she sat quietly, observing the stars outside her window. The events of the past days played in her mind like a vivid mosaic. A human had infiltrated her ship's systems, not with malice, but with skill, intelligence, and moral purpose. He had challenged assumptions, inspired loyalty, and outmaneuvered her most sophisticated security measures. She realized something profound. Humans were not merely a species to underestimate. They were forces capable of changing the course of events in the galaxy.